topic here. On the last podcast, we were talking about Kierkegaard and the idea of God, and I've referenced David Goggins, and I realized that maybe some of you are not familiar with his work. And basically, I wanted to get around his philosophy, introduce the guy, and perhaps give you the few reasons why he became so popular, why he's such a major figure nowadays, and probably one of the most influential um, influencer, if we can say that. And I don't necessarily think he would align with this term, and he's probably definitely not a guru or anyone like that. But he's definitely someone that's made quite a big impact on the, I would say, people, men, young men especially, but also probably a lot of people, regardless of the gender. Who is he? Um, Basically, the best way I can put it is that he was a guy who often says you are under 300 pounds, so about 140 kilos, if I'm correct. Um, I think he was an exterminator, exterminator. So basically, he was killing insects, cockroaches, and that was kind of his story when he started. He wasn't born, I would say, like with a lot of luck. He wasn't born as a superhero. He was depressed, overweight. He had poor reading level, and basically one of the change that made him the man he is, and also why he's so famous and became such an inspiration, is that he didn't change because of that says spark, but because he realized that his life was a lie. And I think it's something he actually references quite a lot in his books. He wanted to get into the army. They told him he was too fat. And long story short, he started to lose a lot of weight. I'm not exactly sure how much, but I think he said about 90 pounds in 3 months, which is a lot. Um, I don't know how much you realize that hard it is, but it is pretty hard. And what makes him is interesting is that he's not just a big accomplisher, but he's also such a experimentalist of the human mind. He's able to go where a lot of people are not willing to go. And I think the 99.99% of people are not even able to, let's say, start what he's accomplishing. And he just wanted to see how much he can endure. Um, and what he says is usually do something that sucks, do something that I hate. Why? Because in his idea, you would train your mind to become more resilient by basically doing something that you would hate, but you would hate so much that your mind will get used to it and will try to get away from it. And basically, will you just dominate your mind and you're just doing what it is that you want to do. And you just said, okay, today we said we're going to run 10 kilometers where we're going to stick to it no matter what. And even if my brain says, oh man, I don't want to do this, even if I'm hungry, even if my legs give up. And a lot of people say, well, that's extreme, that's insane. And he often says, well, maybe you're just not me. And I think it's a really interesting sentence. Um, of course, like probably I'm not changing your mind about the extremism of his philosophy, but a lot of people are not able to comprehend that because you're not doing what he's doing. You're not even trying, and nobody wants to do that because that sucks, and that's exactly what he's saying. And actually, a very interesting neuroscientist, I think his first name is Andrew Huberman. He said that you have a part of your brain, and I think it's called the anterior mid cortex, is basically a part of your brain. It's basically a part of your body that grows if you train it to become more resilient. And it's interesting because this part of the brain was found to be very small in obese people or people who are lazy. Basically, let's say that, and very big in people who are athletes or I guess mine's like David Goggins. And the reason why I mentioned that is because you can train your brain physically to grow when you do things that you don't want to do. Cold shower, extra mile. And people who give up easily, well, this part of the brain reduces. And David Goggins is just not bodybuilding, um, let's say, well, his body, yeah, but he's also bodybuilding his brain. He's trying to understand how much tenacity can I have. Um, a second rule that he has, which I think is quite controversial as well, um, at least in the fitness industry, is that when your mind says you're done, you only reach 40% of your potential. So let's say you walked 10K for the day and your feet hurts, and you're thinking, man, I'm so tired of that, you know, of getting it all. Well, actually, you're probably not even halfway through. And that's kind of something that he says. And there's a central governor theory um, by Dr. Nokus, I hope I pronounce his name right, that basically said that the brain is a servable machine. It creates the feeling of exhaustion to prevent you from hurting yourself. So basically, it's the brain telling you, like, hey, dude, like, you've been at it. We understand, but we don't want you to hurt yourself. We don't want you to create something uncomfortable. And actually, the body resists. I mean, I don't know if you try to lose weight or to gain weight or to take on a new activity, but it's sometimes you're not even tired, but just you're feeling like, I don't want to do it. And there's a reason why. It's like the body and the mind is so used to doing whatever they want, or at least doing something that they're comfortable with. Because imagine yourself, like we've had thousands of years of evolution, and we only know so little about the lives that we've experienced. But for the majority of time, we were cavemen, we're animals, or let's say very close to that. So you have to imagine that as a caveman, you don't want to lose that energy, because if you lose that energy, if you lose that momentum that you have, or the comfort that you have, it means death probably, because you're not going to sleep in this area, or you're not going to have food for one day or something, and your brain basically is a constant, how do I put this? I would say chain of evolution points that results in a brain that today is perhaps not adapted to the modern world, where for the most part, especially Westerners, we have access to a lot of food, a lot of resources, water, and everything, and we're not in the position where we're feeling like at threats with nature, at threats with not knowing what's happening tomorrow. And again, it might be a very good thing for the most part, but it's also something that creates I would say a paradox in your brain, because your brain is telling you some things based on your experience as a human being, but also you're trying to resist it. And I digress, but that story basically tells you that you you want to negotiate with your body or with your brain, because fatigue is often very emotional and it's a normal reaction. But basically, Goggins, what he's saying is that today I'm not negotiating with myself. I'm not. I'm just not, and I'm gonna put in the work no matter what, and I'm gonna do this. And he often says, "Yeah, this is what we do, motherfucker." And it sounds terrible for other people, because he's like very harsh and also uses a lot of swear words. He curses a lot, but he's just being real with himself. And I think for that, I really admire the guy. Like, whatever you think about that and whatever is your main key takeaway of that, it's something that not just resonated with them, but you got to put respect on somebody who's willing to do such an extreme effort, such a, let's say, to go in such a direction, and to reach so far into his mind, into his body resources to become the man who he is. And he often says, "Oh, it's so easy to be great because you all suck and you don't want to do things that suck, and you don't want to be, you don't want to go to work, you don't want to study, you don't want to lift weights, you don't want to run, you don't want to walk." And he's right. Like, most of us don't want that because it sucks, it's hard, and there's a resistance to that. And I think it's something that I've tried to explain in one of the podcasts that I had. That I was reading a book about that the other day, about uh, the power of now from Altar, and basically saying that, the resistance that exists between the moment that you do something, the moment that uh, you want something, is basically that, and that constant resistance, that constant like giving up on yourself, because you made promise to yourself, you make promises about you're going to lose weight, you're going to gain weight, you're going to go to the gym, you're going to do this, you're going to take a new study, you're going to take a new course, you're going to be better at work, you're going to put on more hours, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is that is your passion, whatever it is that drives you, if you're giving up on yourself, you're training your mind not to resist, but you're trying the mind to be quote unquote a bitch, because that's what he would say. He would say you're just not real, and nobody's telling you that, and not even yourself. And I think it's true that there's a lot of hypocrisy within ourselves. We want the best for ourselves. We all very motivated individuals, and we all think the best of ourselves. Like, oh no, I have this capacity. Like I'm as strong as the next guy, or uh, I'm as smart as this woman, or but maybe you're just not, and maybe you're just lying to yourself, and maybe that person has put in the work that you didn't. Maybe that person woke up when you didn't want to wake up, because it's so easy to feel comfortable and so easy to slip in. I mean, um, I don't have to picture that for you, but I'm gonna give you an example. It's 6 a.m. You wake up, you're feeling sore. You're next to your wife or to your husband. It's uh, it's very cold outside. It's probably raining. What do you choose? Do you choose to uh, stop the alarm, wake up, and go at it? What is it that you want? Whatever it is that you want, really. Like, are you gonna study at 6 a.m.? Are you gonna learn a new language? Are you gonna go to school? Are you gonna go to work? Are you gonna go to gym? Whatever it is that drives you, or are you gonna snooze the alarm? And I bet that most of you would say, "Yeah, I'm gonna put in the work, man." But if you were putting the work, and if all of us were putting the work, we would be all exceptional, and we're not. We're not as smart as we think. We're not speaking 5 languages. We're not all like pushing 100 kilos on the bench press. We're not all taking on new degrees. We don't have the same capacities, and it's fine to admit that. And it's actually something that Goggins admitted. He said, "I have a problem, not just physically, because I didn't, let's say, go in depth into that, but he also was very uneducated and suffered a lot from racism and other things." And man, like that guy still he still put in the work, and he's still somebody that I'm gonna talk about, and I'm gonna read. I'm gonna read his book. Like the guy couldn't read for a long time, like he couldn't read properly. So imagine that. It's like we're not exceptional until the moment that we try. And what he says when he says it's so easy to be great, a lot of people say, no, it's not. It is. It just is. You just have to do. And the same with me doing the podcast. Like for a long time, I said, oh, I want to do a podcast. But man, it takes time because I have to study the subject. I have to get out of my comfort zone, speak in another language that is not my native tongue. In case you guys didn't realize, English is not my native tongue. And yeah, you just got to do it, man. Like I have to do the edit. I got to, and all that bullshit. I have to get the feedbacks. And some people are going to tell me, oh, it's great. Some people are going to tell me it sucks. Or this is why it could be better. And this is hard to hear. This is hard because most people don't want the truth. And I have a good friend of me who gave me some really strong advices about how I should do my podcasts, and said, this is why you need to do it, and this is what you need to do. And this is how I feel about this. And at first, when I read the message, I was like, man, thank you, because it's honest feedback. But also, a lot of people might say, oh man, that's bullshit. I mean, I don't need your advice. I don't need anyone. I'm doing my stuff. Which I understand where they're coming from. They believe in themselves, and it's good to have confidence. But I think a lot of people come from the wrong place with that. They come from the place where it's not just confidence; it's insecurity, because they don't want to accept criticism. And I think that throughout my life, and this is perhaps why I'm so fucked up, but I've always accepted criticism quite well, because I always said, like, I want to get better. So let's hear from someone who is actually great at his craft, somebody who's bigger than me, somebody who's smarter than me, and let's see what they have to say. Let's hear it out. Like, why did you get your promotion when I didn't? Why did you get that degree when I didn't? Or why did you get it sooner? Or what have you done to have I don't know, an exceptional life, like a good relationship? How did you manage to have such a good work-life balance? Whatever it is, man, but you got to put in the work. And and basically, the value to that for me is his philosophy is not just let's say an answer to everything. But it's basically a slap in the face. That's what it is. It's like, fuck you, man. I'm not playing your game. I'm not telling you you're great. I'm not telling you that you're doing okay if you're depressed. And I think David Goggins often mentioned that he was depressed, and that's why he gained so much weight, because he was still lifting weight, but he was like overeating a lot. It's like, man, if you're miserable, if you're overweight, if you're alone, and if nobody wants to be around you, then maybe you better check yourself. And it's hard to have that conversation. I don't know if you have that conversation, but if you do, it's tough. It's tough. It's tough, and you can be emotional about it. It's fine. I don't think he would disagree that you can cry about it, be sad about it, or be angry with yourself or with the world or with people, because at the end of the day, most people suck, and that's the truth. Also, and I think that's what he says. It's like the world sucks. You're not in a good place. People suck, but you can't blame them for everything. Basically, it's something that you can do, but at the end of the day, you just gotta put in the work, because you're the only person that can save yourself. You're the only person who can pick up yourself. Because if you fall, well, realistically speaking, if you fall, like let's say on the street, unless you're an elderly woman or a man, and I doubt that you would be listening to my podcast, but hell, man, there's nobody's gonna probably care. Like, you're gonna be there on the floor, and nobody's gonna pick you up, man. Or if they do, then they're great people, and shout out to them. But most people suck, and most people do nice things because they want to get something out of it. They want to be perceived as nice, or they want to feel better about it. And I don't blame them. It's like human nature. But if anyway, if we go back to David Goggins says that if you get used to stress, and if you're seeking let's say those small stressors, you become less reactive to the big, let's say a job loss, the loss of someone, the grief, losing your significant others, because you've established yourself as a mentally strong person. And I think that's basically one of the main key takeaway here. And another thing that I like is that um, David Goggins often refers to God and saying that, thank God I've done this, and he puts a lot of belief in himself, and also a lot of belief in God. And I think it's something that needs to be noted. I don't know if you believe in God, then you don't have to. And it's like interesting for me to have this kind of talk, because I've realized that when I was reading his book, or when I was watching his videos and podcasts, I've realized that the guy don't he doesn't just, let's say, believe in himself, but he believes in something greater. He believes that, okay, if I can inspire people, because he's not gonna be out there and say it, because he has, I think, some prudeness, and he has still this armor that he created around himself by being so tough and manly and very inspiring, but also, and probably he says things in a different way, or in a way that is less I would say political, let's say, in a way, like less diplomatical is what I wanted to say. Um, and yeah, basically, uh, one of the feat that I like about him also is that he had this hole in his heart, and I think he had some kind of disease that went with it, and so basically he didn't really understand he was performing such a high level despite having this problem. And yeah, man, that's inspiring. At the end of the day, when I say, and I think I said that in the last podcast, say, who's going to carry the boats? Who's going to carry the logs? This kind of sentence is it's kind of a meme for a lot of people, because they're not taking it seriously, or they might take it seriously, but they're taking it with a pinch of humor. But he's not, man. He's not. And I can tell you that, like, he's super serious about who's going to carry the fucking boats, because he wants to do good and he wants to win as a team, but he doesn't want to quit, and he's not going to quit. And that's the thing, he doesn't quit on himself. And a lot of us, we quit on ourselves. And I know a lot of great people, a lot of very intelligent people, and the most intelligent people that I've met, they're very sensible, they're very good at heart, and they're very good in many ways. They're very intelligent people, but man, if you don't put in the work, if you don't show up, nobody's going to save you, and that's really sad, because at the end of the day, those great people, perhaps they disappear, and the people who do, the people who are um, perhaps less intelligent or less capable at first, well, they're able to transform those, let's say, those this gap, or to address this gap by building some skills, or by becoming more confident, and by reaching the positions, the studies, the things that he wanted to do in the first place. And I think it's also a truth about the way you see the world. I mean, I think no matter which political border you're in, you might agree that most politicians suck. Most politicians are not doing what they should do, is addressing ecology, addressing humanity. Like, I think every sane person would say, yeah, we need to stop the wars. I mean, of course, there are plenty of reasons, and I don't need to sound naive about the state of the world and human beings in a way, but it's like you have people who are overachievers, usually men, by the way, according to most studies and state of the world. There are different reasons for that, but it's something that we can deep dive into something. But you have people who are able to put everything aside just to perform and achieve. And this is very cool when you're one of these people, because you're just going, man. And David Goggins is definitely one of these people. But as I said, it doesn't mean you're the most intelligent. It doesn't mean you're emotionally intelligent. It doesn't mean you're stable. It doesn't mean you're a good person. And you're gonna be there, and you're gonna beat everyone to it, because you just want to perform and just want to be there. So, this is like I think a train of thought that you can have about the world in general, and about why the world is such a space. Sometimes it's not about ideas or philosophy or something. Sometimes it's about like being efficient and knowing what you want for yourself. Some people want money, and some people are able to do whatever it takes to get to the top, and some people aren't. And basically, their journey is like, you do you, man, but I know what I'm doing. Um, yeah, I think uh, one of the last thing I wanted to say is that David Goggins usually stirred his running shoes for a long time before a run. And he says, I'm just battling the bitch in my head. I'm just finding myself. And I think it's something that is true. It's like, I go to the gym almost every day, but sometimes I just don't want to do it, man. And I still do it. Sometimes I really want to do it, and I do it anyway. And I think it's about that discipline. It's about not giving up, and not being able to negotiate with yourself. This is what we do for today, then this is what we do, motherfucker. And there's no escape around it. And that's basically what he said. I mean, I'm just quoting him here. Um, and yeah, man, like I just want to say, like, Goggins, obviously, like, just as a recap, like, he's not a, let's say, a model for most people, because most people are not able to do what he's doing, and most people would probably break. But he's a reminder for me of what is possible, what is capable, and what a very capable person is able to achieve with the right mindset. And I think this is something that should inspire us at any level, man. Like, if you want to learn a new language, the fact that you register on Duolingo or whatever uh, bullshit website you want to register yourself on, it's already the first step, and it's something that you gotta respect. It's the same with my podcast. Maybe my podcast sucks, like, a lot of people might think, yeah, it sucks because there's not this, because there's that. Oh, then, man, honestly, I don't care. I just do it for myself. I do it because I believe in myself. And you gotta respect that. You gotta respect the people who do, because I think there's like two categories of people that I'm quoting up. I think it's a French businessman called Tapi who said that once, and I'm not necessarily a big fan of the guy, but he said there's two categories of people in the world. He said that to a journalist. He said there's people who do, and there's people who comment. And he said to the journalist, like, basically, you're commenting, like, you're saying, "Oh, I've done this or wrong, or I've done that." Yeah, but I've done it, man. Like, yeah, but I was there. I did the project. I did what nobody wanted to do. I perhaps didn't make the right decision, and it's very easy to judge. And it's like, have you watched football, basketball, or rugby or whatever? Like, if you're on the couch, it's super easy to judge. It's super easy to say, ah, man, you fucked up. You should have passed the ball. Yeah, man, no shit. But they're on the field. They're running like hell. They're tired. They're tired mentally. It's hard. They have a lot of pressure. They have the skills, but they're not perfect. They're just humans. And I think it's also what makes sports beautiful. And in the philosophy of David Goggins, like it doesn't mean you have to be perfect. And I don't think it's necessarily what he's advocating for. But he's saying, who are you? And what is it that you want to achieve in life? And if you want to achieve yourself, well, do it. Because one day you're going to wake up and you're going to be 60, you're going to be 70, and you're going to think, man, I wish I just have worked a little bit longer. I wish I would have studied one more day. I wish I would have asked this girl out. I wish I would have talked to that business man that I've met, and could have been great. It could, and I think what he says, and I think this is the biggest uh, takeaway from me is like you don't want to live with regrets. You can live with remorses. It's like I've done it, but like maybe I shouldn't have done it this way. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe I shouldn't have said this way. But at least, man, you were there and you've done it, and you should be proud of yourself because you were there in the first place. And I think this is what's beautiful about um, what he says. So yeah, I'll link the video of the AMCC, the other cortex that I've talked about if anyone is interested. And yeah, that was all, man. Like I hope you enjoyed the ride. Peace.